You know, I'm having trouble figuring out which one of these two are the worst. Wait, didn't I just say that on the last video? Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Talkin Movies. As always, I'm your host, the real Gino Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about the new Tom and Jerry movie. Now, the first image I saw of this movie, which granted I don't even know if this is an official image, was this. And I saw that and I'm like, dear God, what is that? Um, so I was afraid for this movie, and I hadn't seen anything else of it. I hadn't even seen a trailer until I knew or heard it was coming out on HBO Max and in theaters. So, and then what I saw was radically different. What I saw, and one thing I like about this movie, is that they're bringing animated Tom and Jerry into the real world, not like a Chipmunks movie or Garfield. No, they are cartoons like Who Framed Roger Rabbit cartoons. And I'll talk about that more in a bit. So I was a little happier with what they were going to try to do. Whether or not this was going to be a good movie or not, was for me to find out. But I was happy that they weren't going to try to bring. If they would have went all CG, I would have been okay with it. But I was afraid they were going to bring in CG Tom and Jerry into the real world, and I know I would not have liked that at all. What you get with this movie is it's basically a new origin story. Tom and Jerry are meeting for the first time in this movie. Tom has come to town and he has dreams of making it big. He brings his keyboard and he's pretending to be a blind cat playing his keyboard. Uh, and this ends up in disaster, of course, because of Jerry. Jerry, who I have to talk about it here in a second. Jerry, for a while, is the villain of this movie, which I know in the cartoons, I've always had this inkling that, Jerry had a darker side, watching the old cartoons. Because, if he's going after food, I'm not gonna be mad at a character for going after food, but man, Jerry is a straight up jerk and a thief for part of this movie. So he's kind of the villain for a while, even though he doesn't end up being the real villain. Um, so this leads to their rivalry starting. This also leads to Tom running into Chloe Grace Moretz's character, who is still looking to find her place in this world. What is she supposed to do in this world? But Tom, by accident, causes her to lose her job. Uh, through lies and deception. Long story short, Chloe Grace Moretz's character ends up working at this fancy dancy hotel that is going to be hosting like the wedding of the century between this famous couple. I don't even remember what they said what this couple was famous for. Um, but I mean, just think like royal wedding or something, right? Just like this big time wedding, they're throwing it, and somehow she gets hired at this hotel through again deception. This is also the same hotel that Jerry decides he is going to stay at. He's looking for a home at the beginning of the movie, and he ends up finding a place at this hotel, and Chloe Grace Moretz's character ends up hiring Tom to get Jerry to get him out of the hotel. So that's kind of the basic plot of the movie. It's them two going at each other, and Chloe Grace Moretz's character lying her way into putting on this wedding. Even though Michael Pena's character, who has worked all his life to be, just make it halfway up the chain at this hotel, he's kind of your villain, at least for a while in the movie. And plus, there's a side plot with this couple as well about what their wedding really should and shouldn't be. So anyway, here's what I like about them. We'll talk about what I didn't like. The story was just okay. They spent a little bit too much time on Chloe Grace Moretz's character. I'm not saying she's bad in this movie or anything. In fact, she's not. But they spent a little bit too much time on her character in a movie called Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry do get plenty to do, but I would have liked to see more of them because of what I'll talk about here in a minute. The human stories are fine. It's nothing new. It's all predictable. You know how it's going to end. There is an after credit scene that kind of didn't make any sense, or at least you can say it's bad business practices, bad customer service. But anyway, I could have done with a little less of the story. That being said, it works out fine to give Tom and Jerry a place to interact. A hotel is a big enough place for them to tear apart. So that's really my biggest downfall of the movie. It isn't always the funniest. It's pretty silly. It's exactly what you would expect in a movie like this. But honestly, that story was fine. I didn't hate it. They didn't do a bunch of things that like really made me dislike their characters. They do kind of have a bit of a romance between Chloe Grace Moretz's character and the hotel bartender. They don't really go too far with it, but of course, if they were going to make another Tom and Jerry, maybe they could do more with it. I don't know. Michael Peña's character, he shouldn't really be the villain, but he becomes the villain for a while, and then he's not. And so let's get to what I like about this movie. I've talked enough about what I didn't like. The humans were just fine. Tom and Jerry are animated in this movie, and as I mentioned, I mean obviously they're animated, but what I mentioned is it's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So not only is Tom and Jerry animated, but every animal in this universe, every animal is animated. So we start the movie with, hip-hop pigeons, and anytime you see birds, dogs, cats, mice, elephants, anything, they're all animated. And it's not like they're just animated acting like normal cats, dogs, and other animals. No, they are Toontown animated. So if, say, they get into shenanigans, it's wacky and wild shenanigans. So, and humans witness this. Now, it's not clear whether or not the humans can hear the ones that can talk. The dog, and I can't remember the dog's name, but the dog in the movie, and I know he's one of the classic characters, Tom and Jerry characters, and the name's escaping me, but they are he can talk, but the people can't hear him, as far as I can tell. So any of them that can talk, not really sure if the humans can understand, but they do witness their shenanigans. So not only, say, if they start tearing up the place, does the place start getting tore apart in a cartoon way. There's a scene where Jerry manipulates his mouse hole where it's at, and it moves it in the real world. So humans are witnessing this stuff happening like it would in Roger Rabbit. So I really dug that. I like that humans, anytime they deal with animals, you would think they wouldn't want pets after dealing with animals in this. But oh no, there's plenty of animals. And animals are doing weird and wacky things. And humans are witnessing this cartoon stuff happening with all the animals in their world. I mean, that you even get the classic fight tornado, you know what I'm talking about, where all the animals are piled in and there's a big smoke cloud and they're fighting. Yeah, that happens in the hotel, and it causes the disaster you think it would in the real world. And I really dug that. I really liked how they animated the world like that, how all the animals are cartoons, and that gave it that Roger Rabbit feel. And while, of course, this is nothing near a classic movie like Roger Rabbit was, it makes me wonder what a Roger Rabbit world would be like now, because now you're in, our time with this stuff going on, and it really makes me want to see more stuff like that. So I really dug that about the movie. Tom and Jerry themselves, they got their own plot going on. Again, Jerry causes most of the problems. and Tom is really just trying to help. Tom had dreams, and Jerry destroyed them. And they do have parts where Tom kind of gets to redeem himself and get a little bit of notoriety, but nothing like he was looking for. Of course, Tom and Jerry end up having to work together to make things work. Of course, everything turns out happy in the end, and it's a fine movie. Again, if you're going to watch this movie, it's worth watching for the zany cartooniness of it. That is the reason that I would recommend it. I think kids are gonna like it. That being said, kids may ask, where's the cat and mouse, mom, dad, you know, because again they do spend some a little bit too much time on Chloe Grace Moretz's character. But all in all, I still didn't think this was a bad movie. I still got some enjoyment out of it. It's not one I'm going to watch all the time. That being said, I'm going to show it to my kids next weekend when we have our movie time. So, I enjoyed the movie. I will say, they definitely Warner Brothered up the jokes. I can't remember how many Batman or Joker jokes there were. There's 1.5 cameos from Droopy Dog near the beginning of the movie. I posted something on Twitter about it. There's a billboard with Droopy on it I thought was really funny. And then you get a later cameo from him as well. And I don't want to spoil it. It's just kind of funny. It's very quick, but it involves when there's a scene at the Pound, and you see Droopy there, and I'll just leave it at that. It's just kind of funny. It's very quick, but it's just like it's very Warner Brothers, very Warner Brothers type humor. And I just thought it was funny, and I like Droopy Doug, so I was happy to see him not once but twice in the movie. Well, technically 1.5 times, but again, this isn't a great movie. It isn't a must-see movie, but it's a fun movie. And again, it's fun for the animation. It's fun for how the animation is working in the world. You want to see something animation-wise close to Roger Rabbit. This is probably about as close as you're going to get right now. But again, I don't highly recommend this one, but I do recommend it if you got some kids that want to watch it. It's worth checking out. I enjoyed myself enough to recommend it, but it's not I must rush to the theaters to go see it. If you have HBO Max, why not? If you can find it cheap at the theater, why not? If you need to get the kids out of the house or whatever. So I do recommend it for something like that. And I had a good enough time enjoying the animation of the movie. That's going to be all for this edition of Talkin Movies. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Gino YouTube channel. Like this video. You have anything to say about Tom and Jerry the movie, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Till next time, I am your host, the Real Gino, Gino Reynolds. See you later.